Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for being here today. Thank you for being in our viewing audience and sticking with us on RSVP Hollywood. We have an exciting show ahead of us today. We have a fascinating star as our guest. She began her career as an actress in the magical black and white days of Hollywood when all of the big stars were becoming legends, and it still are today. She played opposite such stars as Tyrone Power. She starred with Fred Astaire and Daddy Longlegs, Peyton Place, Robert Wagner. She was nominated for an Academy Award in Come Back Little Sheba with Burt Lancaster. She's known for her relationship with Howard Hughes. What can I say about that? And most recently, a few years ago, to really put a few exclamation points on this woman, she was featured in Playboy magazine. That's right. So please help me welcome Terry Moore. Terry, you are a fascination, absolutely and totally. You're such a tiny woman. I was so surprised.
I know, I'm about 5'2" and 106, and people always think that I'm tall. You can't tell on the screen because I always thought that Jennifer Jones was tiny, and she's a very tall lady. So you really cannot tell unless you're next to a tree.
Yeah, well, which we happen to be
right.
today. Now, you decided to show everything that there is to see in Playboy magazine. What motivated you to do that?
Well, first of all, Kathleen,
it wasn't. I wasn't.
No, I didn't show everything.
And not everything.
Yeah, no, I would allow no pubic hair, and I wanted it to be done as great masters would do their paintings, and to show that everything becomes better with age, whether it's a fine wine or the women are the same. And what motivated me to do it is, in Hollywood, unlike Europe, everyone thinks that a woman's span is from 18 to 25. That's
yes.
when they're the best. And so I was coming back to my career after raising my children and doing a comeback, and I really fought this, well, what does she look like now? And still, I was asked to be interviewed by Playboy, not intending to do pictures, but they offered to do pictures for me. I needed some new photos, and they said, you know, if you'll allow us to do some very lovely nudes, you know, you can keep them. And I didn't sleep for a week. I thought, oh, I can't do that. Well, I finally did, because it's run by women. It's all women who run Playboy.
Really?
So, and they treat you beautifully. So I went, and I first of all, I started out in costumes, and then they said, will you take it off? And I said, of course, what shall I put on now? And everybody started giggling. Well, I did, and they took these pictures, but my partner and manager, Jerry Rivers, went over the next day to see them. I was too embarrassed to go see them. He calls me on the phone. He said, these are the most beautiful pictures you've ever had taken. You must come right down and see them. Well, I did, and they had me hooked. And I said, well, yes, as long as we could approve them, that they didn't show anything really below. And so that's the way they did it. Well, and they kept their word, and they were wonderful.
I know you did this in 1984.
Right.
Would you be willing to go for another one in 1994?
I told them I would.
Really?
I told them I would, and I think I would look much better now because I work out a lot more and everything. But because of my church, I can't do it again. And they never said anything to me before, and they said, you know, they would rather I not since then. So I can't do it again, but otherwise I would, because I really do not feel, I don't want to ever do any nudity on film. I just feel like I don't like it today. I've been raised in, as you said, the black and white films when people couldn't even be in the same bed. Even if you were married, you had to keep one foot on the floor, and you weren't allowed to show cleavage. And I hate to compromise my art in that way with nudity, because I just feel that we got by in movies for many years without nudity. But as I say, these were done like an old master painting. I felt like that one of the great artists of the old would have done, and that's the way I wanted to do it. And I did it once, and it was a pleasure.
Terry, your skin is so lovely. Do you have any secrets for those of us that would like to stay as young as you are?
Well, I think it's because I don't use too much, and I
Uh-huh.
like very simple, more moisturizing lotions than I do anything greasy. But I think 90% of it is genes. My grandmother at 96 was worried because she was getting wrinkles in her neck.
Oh, really?
So I think, you know, you really, it's like good hair and things, you're born with that.
How about that, guys?
Just lucky, I guess.
Now, I, for one, am very curious about, I mean, you were with some of the all-time greats, and I understand, were you also involved with Tyrone Power? Is that true, or is that some rumor that
Don't I
persisted
wish?
through the-
I'd still like to be involved with Tyrone Power.
Oh, he was
one of the
gorgeous.
most beautiful human beings I've ever known. My mother always said, Tyrone, you're as beautiful on the inside as you are the outside. He was a wonderful, wonderful man.
Really?
But it seemed like all those years I was involved in, and married and in love with Howard Hughes, and he was really the great love of my life. And
How old were you when you met Howard Hughes?
I was 18 years old.
18.
I married him when I was 19, and I was with him till I was 26. So that's a very impressionable time of your life.
How did you meet? Tell us the story.
Well, I went to the tennis matches, and I was always running in to Johnny Maschio, who was a top agent in the town and a very good friend of Howard's. And he said to my date, who was Jerome Cortland, an actor, and he said, would you come to the Beverly Wilshire and have a 7-Up or something? And we had turned him down. We kept running into him. We turned him down many times, but we said, okay. And when we got there, he looked across, he saw this tall, lanky man sitting against the wall, and he said, oh, there's Howard Hughes. Howard, won't you join us? And so he came over, and it was going through my mind, Hawks, Hughes, Houston. They were all directors, you know, too, and I had them all kind of confused. And he came over, and then he started talking about aviation. I realized he was Howard Hughes also, set the round the world record, and was such a great pilot and test pilot and all. And I was very interested in aviation, and so was Jerome. So he asked us to go flying with him, and we started flying with him. And it just came about very slowly that I fell in love with him.
Is that right?
Yes.
So it wasn't something where, you know, there wasn't one of those magical moments. When was the turning point?
Oh, well, there was for him. He had seen me in a picture I played opposite Glenn Ford called Return of October, and he had fallen in love with me. And it wasn't until 10 years later that I found that this was all set up. I mean, he was quite a manipulator. I mean, when he wanted to meet somebody, he met them. And I didn't even like him in the beginning. In fact, when he asked us to go flying, I said no, and Jerry said yes. And we started going, and then he started calling me on the telephone nights, and he would tell me all these wonderful stories about my favorite stars, and the stars in the 20s and 30s and 40s, and it was so exciting, and I found myself rushing home from my dates to talk to him. And I told Jerry, and he said, I think you're in love with him. Why don't you go out with him? And I said, oh, no, no, no. I mean, he was 23 years older than I was.
Oh, he was at the
And
time.
I thought, oh, no. Though he was only 43 at the time. And when it's Paul Newman or somebody like that who's 43, it didn't seem old at all. So, but I thought, what will the high school kids think?
Oh.
And he said, oh, come on, if you like him, go out with him. And so I did.
And that was the beginning
Yes.
of the end.
It was both.
And what split you up?
What split us up? I think that he was always, and I found out really not so much physically, but involved with other women. He was always making movies. He was always trying to discover a new Jean Harlow. And it was very disconcerting, and I was jealous. And I think that's really what broke us up, was other women.
Do you think a man with that kind of ambition, sometimes they want to include so much in their lives that do you think it would be impossible for him to have been totally with one woman? Do you think that would have been an impossibility, given his personality?
I don't know, because it was more, which I realize now, because I've got to know so many of these other women, and many of them have written books, as I have, that he liked to be James Bond, and he liked the impression more that he had all of these women. And he also lost me in giving that impression. He put a lot of women under contract to him. He would find an actress like Gina Lollobrigida. He put her under contract, and then she never heard from him, and she finally like escaped one evening. He'd give them dramatic lessons and all the lessons and everything, and want to make a star, and it was just that he forgot that he had her there. And that would be, just like we would go out and we would park a car. He had a whole fleet of Chevrolets, and we would go to a game or something. Neither one of us could remember where we parked it. And I said, there's got to be rusting Chevrolets all over this town, because half the time we'd lose our car. We were both in Glockamora. Artists, he was such a visionary and really not like Einstein. I mean, they were in the state of alpha most of the time. So, and I guess I am too. I need someone to hold me to earth.
What do you think was the most profound thing that you learned by being with a man like that?
The most profound thing, I think that he was very charitable. He was very kind, and he cared. And he never said anything about anyone unless he had something really good to say. So
really?
He was really a wonderful human being.
How fascinating.
Yes.
It's fascinating. Now, when you moved into another relationship after Hughes, did you feel that you were constantly comparing?
I felt I was shortchanged. I have ever since, to tell you the truth. That's a terrible thing to say, but he's a hard act to follow.
I can imagine.
Because he was exciting. He was very much like an Ian Fleming character of James Bond. He set round-the-world records. Lindbergh only flew the Atlantic. He flew around the world. He test piloted all his own planes. I was just with in Washington, D.C., where they have the Japanese Zero on display. He invented that. The American government turned it down, and the Japanese obtained it. And the Spruce Goose, as they call it, today is still, they haven't even built anything half as large. The 880 is probably one of the greatest designs of all time in airplanes. So he really, he was into oceanography way beyond. He was already thinking of how to, foreseeing the problems of the homeless and feeding the world. He was so far ahead of his time.
Really?
Yes.
Now that's fascinating. But you said I could ask you anything. Was he?
Yes.
Was he a good lover?
The best.
Was he?
Yes. Incomparable.
Really?
It was so funny because I would go out with other men afterwards who were younger and maybe very great athletes and famous and everything, and people would naturally think that it would be Hughes for his money and they for their
physical attributes.
Physical attributes, exactly. But it was the opposite. It really was.
Do you think there's anything...
I would melt when he was around. I was butter.
Do you think there's any correlation, because oftentimes, in the people that I've known in my life, that the correlation between that sexual energy and their level of success, do you see a correlation?
I absolutely do. I think Marilyn Monroe always thought that Einstein was very sexual. And we all believe that there was finally something between her and Einstein. But
really?
Oh yes, oh yes. But I really truly believe that the greatest men in the world are the most physical men, that they use that sexual energy, they channel it in another direction. And I absolutely think so.
Well, you told me I could ask you anything.
Okay.
And you have your own television show where you interview people.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you an interesting question. If you were sitting here in my chair, what would you ask you?
Oh, dear me. I think I would ask what you ask. What was Howard Hughes like, I mean, I guess I still like to read the gossips and things like that. And I think that I would probably be the most curious as to what Howard Hughes was really like.
Yeah. And were you in contact with him at the end? Was there?
He called me once and somebody hung up on us.
Really?
And the FBI was helping me to get through to him. We were flying. I had my reservations to go to Paradise Island. We were going to break in, and that day, the day before we were to leave, he was moved to Mexico. And I tried to break in at Inn of the Park to him. And it was very difficult because I would talk to Cary Grant about it, who was his best friend. And I said, but Cary, he's got to be being held a prisoner or something because you're his best friend. He loves me. I mean, he would certainly get in contact with us, but there was always a little bit of a doubt. Maybe he was sick. Maybe he didn't want to be seen, as a lot of stars, when they get older, kind of hide away and don't want to be seen. And I said, maybe he doesn't feel he looks well. But that I wish now that I had gone to the extreme ends and rescued him.
And really persisted. I would have, if I were you, I would have felt a great deal of anxiety and a lot of pain around that kind of situation.
I have for a long time. I've learned to live with it now, because other pains come along and replace those. But no, it's something I've always been sorry for. And I also find that in death, that sometimes people seem closer to you, that we're really not separated by anything. They're around.
Do you feel that he was a man of spiritual inclinations?
Yes, but he wasn't religious.
Yes.
I've been brought up and am a Mormon, and he liked Mormons to be around him for their honesty, you know, and integrity, and for many reasons. And he asked me a lot about it, and I feel that he was he had more of a curiosity of life and he always listened. He was a good listener.
I understand that's one of your attributes in your show. I saw some footage, and I did get a chance to see some of Terry's World, which is your television show. And that was one of the things that Milton Berle said about you, that you were a fabulous listener.
Oh, that was... He's wonderful. He's a wonderful interview. By the way, if you ever get a chance, you can't have anybody better than Milton. But I hope to. It's something you learn. In fact, it's hard now to be interviewed again because I never have trouble speaking, but I want to sit back and listen now. It is true that you do learn a great deal more by listening.
And the roster of people that you have on your show is just totally, I mean, the who's who of Hollywood. It's like,
well, there's nobody who's refused me, but I made my first picture movie 50 years ago, and I think I'm an outgoing person, and I love people, and if you love someone, they love you back. So it has not been difficult. Everybody's just been wonderful.
Well, that seemed to be the quality that I was really picking up on when I watched you in your show, is that there's so much heart in you, and it's hard for, I suppose, for me to ask you a question like, what was it that Howard Hughes fell in love with, and what is it that engages people so much? But it's clear, you're sincere, you're genuine, you don't have a facade, and you've had the best of everything, I suspect. With having had Hughes at such an early age, you were probably exposed. Tell me, did he buy you lavish gifts? Were there things like that?
Well, he bought me a new dress every time the old one wore out.
Did he wait for the old one to wear out?
Yes. He didn't, you know, he would buy anything as far as airplanes go, or, you know, things like that. But, and I was never wanted a lot of gifts or anything. I mean,
so he wasn't extravagant?
Not extravagant in that way at all. Certainly he was in homes, but we always leased or rented them, and cars. It was Chevrolets, and we would water ski, but he didn't dress up a lot, so I had no reason to dress up. We would go bowling and things like that, or there wasn't video then, so we had our own projection room at Goldwyn Studios, and offices there. So we had on the big screen, I mean, movies every night. We'd sometimes run 6 movies in a night. Yeah. We both loved motion pictures, and we both loved flying. But when you can have anything, you don't really think of buying. It just never struck me to ask for very much.
Interesting. Interesting. And you're busy doing projects on your own. You're producing now?
We produced a movie called Beverly Hills Brats, and that's co-stars Martin Sheen and Burt Young and Peter Billingsley, and Martin and I are the parents of the Brats, and Kathy Podwell, who's now Mrs. J.R. Ewing on Dallas, and Martin's son, and Whoopi Goldberg, and Fernando Allende, and Natalie Schaefer. We had a wonderful cast, and they were all friends of mine. And it was a great fun. And we're going to do another picture now called Picture Me in Paradise. And then my book is going to be a 2-hour movie of the week, and that's the My Life and Marriage with Howard Hughes, and that's called The Beauty and the Billionaire.
Great title.
Thank you.
Great title.
My original title, which I'd love to go back to, was Howard Be Thy Name. Yeah, that's a good title.
That's a good title,
Yes.
too.
Yes.
Excellent. Yes. Well, with all it, I think one of the joys in this business is when you can have a project and you can actually have the people that you truly love around you working in that project. Then it becomes a joyful dance rather than a painful misery.
That's so true.
Anybody know about that?
That's true. You know, who always did, and they're both great friends of mine. I love them both dearly. It was John Wayne. He always had his group of people around him, and so does Burt Reynolds. And it's just got to be a party when they make a movie because all their friends are with them.
I know the stress sometimes of this business is, you know, it supersedes the joy that we initially waltzed in the door with, and you can lose sight of it, particularly because there's so much pressure in terms of the money that it costs and the money that it's supposed to make. I read an article about Warren Beatty and the Dick Tracy situation, and the emphasis that's so much present with money all the time.
Oh, yes.
And we're losing some of the most precious things. The value system that we've lost is the joy of living.
Yes, that's so true.
You know.
And it's so hard to keep the realm of fun with a movie and not just a business, especially since so many conglomerates own the studios now. It isn't. You have to keep that sense of fun, and everybody's thinking dollars and cents,
Yes.
and sometimes it really makes a movie longer and takes a lot of the joy out of it.
In fact, we have a clip that we'd like to show our viewing audience and our studio audience of some of a little collage of your illustrious past.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, so if we can put that on, we'll take a look at that right now, if that's possible. Here we go.
Terry Moore.
All right, what do you say, audience?
I saw a lot of smiles on the girls' faces when
You
they saw
bet.
Jimmy Dean.
Oh, the greats of Hollywood.
And the boys didn't seem to mind Marilyn Monroe.
No, no. And I think there was an Elizabeth Taylor in there
Yes,
somewhere along the line.
Elizabeth.
To know these people and to be able to be friends with these people and to get a sense of who they are has got to be definitely part of the wealth of being in this business.
It really is, and you meet some of the nicest people. We just returned from Washington, D.C. yesterday, and 3 of the nicest people I've ever met were with us, and that was Ben Johnson, who won an Academy Award, and I understand he's done another Academy Award performance that he might win the big one this year, and Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash. I mean, what lovely, real, wonderful people they are. Ben was just telling me, Ben Johnson, and we co-starred in one of my first grown-up films, well, almost grown-up, Mighty Joe Young, and that was his first movie. And Ben was, he said that John Ford, the great director that won 5 Academy Awards, directed most of John Wayne's movies, including Quiet Man, called John Wayne and him to his deathbed. And he said the last thing John Ford said when he died was, "Stay real, Ben, stay real." And I thought that was so lovely.
What a great last line.
I know,
Yeah.
just stay real. And so many of the people that you love on the screen are, you know, just as nice, if not nicer, off screen. And that on Terry's World is what I've been trying to show, is the soul of these people. And I want them to be relaxed and know that they're not going to get zapped by a question that they don't want to answer. And in fact, I tell any of them, if there's anything you're unhappy with, I'll be happy, you know, you can take the film with you. I'll cut it right there
Edit
for
it.
you. Edit it right there. You can take it with you. And things that I thought that they should take with them, and I've said, don't you want that out? And they say, no. No one's ever asked to have anything taken out. And I'm surprised. But I find that people like to be honest, like to be upfront with them, with their audience and themselves.
But
they don't like you to pry for it.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that you really have accomplished that in the segments that I've seen of your show. I get a certain kind of sensitivity that I have not seen present in other interviews that I've seen those same stars in. There's a certain vulnerability that you provoke.
Thank you. Well, I can do things too that most interviewers can't do because having been in the business so long. For instance, Robert Wagner and I have him on an interview, and we run a scene from Beneath the 12-Mile Reef, which was the first CinemaScope picture that we co-starred in along with others. But we run a love scene in that, and then RJ and I do the same love scene 30 years later the way we would do it today, and you can compare the two. And I like to do that with a lot of people I work with, go back and show a scene, a clip from a movie, and then do it the way we do it today.
Well, you hold a wealth of memories and that personal relationship that you have with each of these people. I mean, the people that I saw you interview, it seemed as if you had some connection with them. You were either in a film with them or something. So it creates a whole different kind of relationship. It's true.
Oh,
it's
it
true.
does. You know, it does. Like Clint Eastwood is going to do the show. Well, I did the first Rawhide with Clint.
Oh.
And we've played in many golf and tennis tournaments and ski tournaments, and we even judged the fastest gun alive, you know. And so we've been through so much. I mean, in 50 years, you can go through a lot of things with people. And then now I have one of my sons is in the business, so he's very friendly with the young generation, and so through him, through being a mother, and a grandmother now, I'm knowing all the generations. Yes, I am.
You still look like a little girl, and you still have that little girl quality.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I remember you said in something that I'd seen on Entertainment Tonight, wouldn't Howard be proud of me? I'm just a little girl and I've made it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you still feel like that?
Oh, very, very much so, because, you know, children are so honest, and when they tell a story, they exaggerate and they make it bigger, and they're not afraid, they're not holding back. And that's what, as actors, we can't lose. We still have to keep the child in us, and so I've never let it die. In fact, I nurture that child, and I want it to always be there.
Well, I thank you for bringing that child here today, because I really see what you're talking about, and I so much appreciate your being a guest on RSVP. Can you believe a half hour's gone by?
No, I can't, and you're a wonderful interviewer. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all for being here. And thank you for keeping on watching. Thank you. Thank you, Gary Spain, for coordinating all of the wonderful guests that we have. And be watching. We're going to be changing the format. We're going to be having interviews on restaurants and films, so keep watching RSVP. Thanks. Bye-bye.